How's the food there? Is it good?
A little difficult at first because there was no flavor. I used to add Tabasco sauce on every single thing.
I've heard that there are too many breads there.
Yeah. With every single meal, even at school, my breakfast, my dinner, my lunch, everything used to end with a bread. Like the way we use spoon, they clean their plate with the bread. So it took me a while, let's say 3 or 4 months, get used to it. That this is my meal. I have to end it with a bread. I have to have a bread every single day. And when I came back, I was like, where is the bread? I need my bread.
If you're lucky enough to find a colleague that you can just sit and rant with, that's the best, because there's nobody on earth who's going through the same thing. Your parents will be sympathetic with you, your partner, your friends, everyone will be sympathetic, but they're not in that position. So when you hate somebody at work, hate them with your entire heart, with your guts, nobody else will understand. They'll just think you're being petty and you're just being a small person. But that one co-worker who's going through the same thing will know why you hate that person and will not judge you for it.
When you're quitting your 9 to 5, you're basically working 2x that, and you're not quitting your 9 to 5. 9 to 5 is like, for startup owners, it's like luxury. 9 to 5 is like stability, and a startup is like not at all stable in any sense, and you have to be working 24/7 pretty much. You're sleeping with the same thought and you're waking up to the same thought. You're always hustling.
Okay.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Life Lab by Shabby. This space is built on a very simple idea that life itself is the greatest laboratory. Every choice we make, every risk we take, every failure and every success becomes an experiment that teaches us something about who we are and who we can become. In today's episode 6 of Gold Diggers, we are joined by young professionals who are navigating their 20s with ambition, courage and willingness to step outside their comfort zones. From global education experiences to building careers in competitive industries, each of them represents a generation that is redefining success on their own terms. What makes this conversation exciting is that these journeys are still unfolding. They are not stories from the finish line. They are stories from people who are right in the middle of building their lives, making decisions, taking risks, and discovering who they are along the way. Tonight, we'll talk about education, independence, career choices, relationships, mental health, and realities behind ambition. Because behind every achievement, there is always a story that people don't see. So let's begin this conversation and meet the gold diggers who are turning their aspirations into action. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Nidhi. I am an operational analyst. I work for an investment bank in Mumbai.
Great. Naman?
So my name is Naman. I am a founder of a performance marketing agency, and I'm also quite involved in my family business. So that's my work side. And when I'm not working, which is barely, I do like sipping some good coffee and play some good sports. And recently I've been liking pickleball a lot.
My name is Ishita. I am a digital marketer. I practice in Dubai. I work for a venture capitalist firm that invests in Web3 and AI projects.
Great. So welcome all of you, and it's a pleasure having you all here. My name is Shabby Lodi and we run a channel called The Life Lab by Shabby. We just talk about experiences of young professionals and students, so that we are just trying to bridge a gap between parents and students, and if I say it at a large, adults and the teenagers. Okay. So my first question goes to you, Naman. This section is called Early Life and Upbringing. And the question is, when you think about the person you are today, what part of your upbringing do you feel influenced you the most?
So I'll start with some intro. So I've had a very comfortable childhood thanks to my parents. And after, throughout my school, I was a good kid, mediocre, good kid. And my parents have played a very big role in my upbringing. Whatever I'm today, it's because of them, no cap. So there are some traits that I inherited from my father, and I love to, use it in my world to get accepted, to get liked by people. And there are some traits that I get from my mother that I would say are very, like, that makes me very generous, light-hearted. She told me to always have a smiling face. So yeah, that's one thing. So yeah, these are some good things.
That's really nice. As a young student, were you more inclined towards creativity, leadership, or problem solving?
So I would say that I've always inclined towards leadership. I've always liked to lead people into certain things. Let's say chaos when we were in school, but after that we all have matured a lot. So let's say I'm heading a performance marketing agency, then my family business. So yeah, that says a lot.
That's really nice to know. Nidhi, over to you. Looking back at your childhood in Nagpur, what are some experiences that shaped your personality the most?
My childhood, I have been a very studious person. I have studied for, let's say, 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours. And seeing that, I know that hard work does take you somewhere. I got my results out of all the hard work that I have done. So, and that kept going on even now. So that is something that I know that is going to stay with me.
Lovely. And who were the people or influences growing up that helped shape your outlook on life?
My sister.
Okay.
She has been the biggest role model for me. I have seen her in various roles. She has been a sister to me, a teacher to me, my second mother, and just one of the people I would always go to for any kinds of advice or any kinds of problem solving as well. And something that I want to be, someone I want to be like, is my sister, because she's very self-driven, she's very ambitious, and that is what I see myself being as.
Great. Now over to you, Ishita. What are some values from your upbringing that still shape who you are today?
Oh, there are so many, but I think I will start with one, being independent. I think nowadays we talk about being independent a lot, but from what I am taught, independence is not just like making your own money and then spending it. Independence is also that when you're around your friends or when you have partners, nothing is affected by them. You are an addition. They don't complete you as a person. So if someone around you is not in a good mood, that doesn't affect your mood. Of course, that you want to help them out of it, but that doesn't pull you down or makes your energy go down. That was one thing, being independent in who I am, not getting defined by anybody around me. I think that was one thing. Second was, I think, just strength in general. When you face failures, when things don't go your way, you always remember that there's a bigger picture around. You hold strength, you hold patience, and you wait for your day to come. That would be the second thing. But I think the third and the biggest thing is knowing what's important to you. I think money, jobs, work, education, all of these things, they are very important, core things in your life, but at the same time, they're not everything. Taking care of your health, taking care of yourself, remembering that your family comes first, remembering to take care of them, being there for them, spending time with them. I think all of these values really shape me as a person now.
Lovely. Growing up in such an environment, did you feel an early sense of responsibility or ambition?
I did, because I always say this, my mom and I are best friends, and we are not best friends how other people say, oh, my parents and I are best friends. We really are best friends. You can ask any of my friends if I'm ever in trouble. It could be the worst thing I can possibly do in my life. My first call will always be to my mom. Nobody else. I don't want to hide. I don't want to do anything. I just want help. I think that is something that is so pure. It's such a safe haven for me to have that trust, to have that understanding, to have that love. And for us, because I always saw her as a role model, so I would see her go to work in front of me. She started her job in front of me. She started her second job in front of me, third job in front of me, became a principal in front of me, became a director in front of me, started her business in front of me. So I think that is the source of my inspiration.
Lovely. Coming to the education section of our questions, Nidhi, you studied at one of the reputed colleges in Nagpur. What part of your college journey had the biggest impact in your growth?
I was in the COVID batch, and to make sure that even though it is online, I still have to study, I still have to take it seriously. That was something that I had to really focus on. So this is something that drove me, drove me to ensure that whatever I'm doing, whatever placement opportunities that I would get, everything I'm learning, even though it is online, it stays with me.
Okay. And was there a moment during your student life when you realized what direction you wanted your career to take?
I've always been inclined towards finance. I always wanted to work in a good bank, in a good corporate environment.
So bank also you had in mind?
Yes, definitely.
And this was since when?
Since I was in my bachelor's. So since then, I knew that I had a list of investment banks that I wanted to work for, and fortunately, I am working in one of them now.
Lovely.
So my manifestation power, that helped me a lot.
Manifestation and hard work as well.
Yes, definitely. So I thought that I want to work in this particular company, and I made things happen for me.
Now to you, Ishita. You completed your education in Nagpur before pursuing your masters abroad. What inspired you to take that leap?
I was always interested in studying abroad. I think it's a really good opportunity because I think everyone now travels for a week, 10 days, 20 days trip, but it doesn't give you the amount of exposure that you can get by leaving your home. So I think it's a really good time because everyone, first you have like 50 people to be friends with because they are in your class. It's mandated that you be friends. So it gives you a very good space to interact with people that are your age. They are in the same mindset as you. They're still struggling to figure out life just like you. Also, you can have a lot of fun. You can enjoy your life. I think initially that was my motivation, that I want to spend time experiencing something new, something out of the ordinary. I don't think I've ever left home. I don't think I would even go for like generic night stays that often, maybe like once in 2-3 months. So it was a really big leap for me, but I think it was such a great experience. Looking back, I would personally like vouch for that experience for everyone. You can come back, you can stay there, do whatever you want, but take that chance.
Okay. And how different was the learning environment abroad compared to what you experienced in India?
It was really different because when I went there, here usually when I would be in the class, I'm not a person who generally like raise my hand and give an answer. But I know the answers, so I'm always confident. I'm looking at the teacher, I wait for them to ask me, and I know, so I will answer. With that confidence, of course, I went abroad to the university, and I think in the first 2 days is where the reality really hit me, and I was like, oh no, everyone here is so much smarter than I am. They know things that I've never even read, never even heard of. They're aware of situations that have happened around me that I never had the exposure to. They know so many, like just general knowledge that I did not have any idea about. I did feel like I was so far behind, but at the same time, it did not take very long to catch up. I think your environment affects so much of what you do. I think here I matched up to everyone who was around me, and it took me some time, but I was able to match up to everyone who was around me there.
Okay. Lovely. Naman, many people pursue an MBA hoping it will open new opportunities. How did your MBA change the way you think about business and strategy?
I never intended to do an MBA. So like after I completed my bachelor's, I was like, I think there's a need, because I did my graduation from Nagpur. So I was like, maybe there's a need and I should give some entrance exams and maybe try see if MBA fits my life trajectory. And it surely did. I was always interested in finance. So in second year, when we have to choose our specialities, my college had a unique course where you can choose 2 specialities if you're interested in that and if you want to study more. So I was inclined towards that. I chose marketing and finance. I was interested in both. To my shock, or whatever you would say, that after my MBA, I was not like, I was still doing my family business, still helping my father, my brother in that. But after that, I felt an sense, I had a wave that I should do something of my own. Like, this is gonna be there, but I should definitely start something of my own. So that's when I started learning performance marketing. So we have only heard about different kinds of marketing in that, and since I was interested in finance and marketing both, since they were my majors, so I was like, "Ki, what's that culmination of both that we can use here to, change the life trajectory?" So I was like, "Ki, performance marketing suits me. It has finance. We have to run ads. We have to, track metrics." So I was like, let's learn performance marketing. And I think that was like the one thing that changed quite everything in my life. Then I went to Mumbai, worked there for 2 years. Like, those were the two best years of my life, I would say, because there we were handling very big brands, the brands that we, interact with every day. So I got to learn from an amazing team. Can I take some names?
Yeah, please.
So, like, a short shout out to some people. Sanjeev, like, he was my manager. I learned from a lot from him. Amol, Chinmay was my of my level. So he was an analyst back then. So, like, we had the best parties in office and out of office. And so yeah, after that, after completing my 2 years, I was like, hey, let's start an agency of my own. Since I wanted to be back with my parents, I liked Nagpur. I can't find Nagpur food anywhere else in the world. Like, like, the food is like top tier here. So I was like, let's move back, be with my parents. So I came back here, started my own agency while doing part-time in my family business.
So what you're saying is that while pursuing your MBA, you also pursued a certificate
Yes, certification for
marketing.
Performance marketing, yes.
Lovely. Was there a specific class, mentor, or experience during your MBA that shaped your professional direction?
During my MBA, there were two teachers who really pushed me. They taught finance. I would not say the name, but they taught finance. They would know who, if I'm talking about them. So they shaped my life in that sense that they pushed me really hard. Like, I was, for the first 6 months, into the MBA, I was very attending every lecture, doing all the assignments we were given. After that, I was for a month or two, I was a little laid back because I was getting the marks. I was one of the smartest people in the class. I was I got some laid back attitude. But they really pushed me. They were like, if you can be this good in this room, just imagine all the rooms that are gonna be in the future and work for them here. You can get all the exposure you want. We have a good faculty here. Both of them were apparently CAs. So they were like, we're gonna tell you what you can do with your preparations, and you can start preparing right now for the life ahead of you. So yeah, I would say.
Nice. So I guess all of you have good experience in college, and you've had great learnings from there, more from your professional journey. But at the same time, I believe fun was a very big element that kept you motivated, right?
Yeah.
And with Niti, was it the same?
Yeah, definitely. I've had a lot of fun.
I don't think it has stopped.
It has.
Okay, talking about international exposure, Ishita, studying at a UK university campus in Dubai means being surrounded by people from many cultures. What was the most eye-opening experience for you there, besides the one that you just quoted?
Okay, without taking names, but I would like to share this story. There's this girl in my class who was probably the only 2-3 girls who were quiet in the class. One was me, but she was a girl who was quieter than me. And we had this group project that we had to do. And somehow she landed up in our group, and she messaged all of us, 10 people, saying that, I have this idea and I would like to pursue it. If you guys are into it, I just want to share it with you. Let's see how it goes. And in my mind, I'm thinking, she's never even said a word in class, right? I did not really expect much. So I was like, I have to go half an hour before class just to hear out one idea, which I'm pretty sure I won't like. And in this project, we actually had to come up for like a business idea, and then how we plan to market it, what will be the USP, why this idea is better than anything else that exists, and just show your creativity. Her idea, when we sat down, I sat down with a straight face only to get through the conversation. When she told me that idea, I was so mind blown. I think I couldn't talk about anything else for the next 2 or 3 weeks. I wouldn't say the idea because it's hers and it's quite an awesome idea if she decides to someday pursue it. But it was something that was for the blind and for people who have special abilities. So it was like a board game for them to help them feel included. That's all I can say. But I think my biggest eye opener was never to underestimate anybody that comes your way. You should always, you just have no idea what people are capable of. Everyone has something unique to offer to the world, and you should never be a blocker in their path. Always be open, always listen to what people have to say, help them out if you can. I think, yeah, that was my biggest eye opener.
Great. Do you feel international exposure changed the way you see yourself and your career?
Yes, I do. And sometimes yes, sometimes no, I would say. When I was here, I would a lot of times feel insecure because I've been working for a really long time now. I've worked since I was a teenager, I've worked till now. I've always had great rapport with my colleagues. I've always gotten amazing feedback from any of the bosses I've had. I've had amazing relationships with them. I always thought that maybe it's that way here, but it might not be the same where I am against people with better abilities, better knowledge, better education, better skills, better exposure. So I did feel good when I could compete with them head to head, toe to toe, and not lack in anything. I think that was really, really nice to see. It boosted my confidence a lot. But at the same time, I always thought that work is really hard. And I just thought maybe I get lucky every time, you know, every time somehow I land a company where the work is just not that bad, like not as bad as I thought it would be. And now my first job in Dubai, it was the same, and I was like, oh, how come? Maybe again it's just luck, but this time around, when it's such a difficult space, I would say it's such a new space. People are not yet very much aware of this space. Even when I talk about it, usually people don't understand what I'm trying to say when it comes to Web3 and AI. I like it being like that. It should always be easy, touch wood. But yeah, I think that was something that didn't change. It's still very easy.
Nidhi, spending time as an exchange student in Europe can be quite transformative. What was the most memorable experience from that phase of your life?
Let's say I'll call it memorable, shocking, scary, and everything. 2 or 3 months had passed by. I was living in France, and it was a very small town. No one knew English, and I was also in my learning phase of the language. One day after school, I accidentally took a wrong bus, and that took me to some random location. And back in 2015, we did not use GPS so much, so that was a little scary. I had no way to contact anyone. I just had the phone numbers. Fortunately, there was a church where they dropped me. I was like, no, this is not the location I'm supposed to go to. So I just got down on the first stop. I went to inside the church. I told them, phone, call. This is all I could say. I called my host parents, and I had no words. I could not speak that language very well. I just said, I am at the church, pick me up. And then I handed the phone to the father who was standing in front of me. He told the entire thing, what had happened, where the bus had dropped me and everything. My host parents had come after 1 hour, and that 1 hour, that was let's say the most scary but the most crazy experience that I've ever had in a foreign country. And other than that, all my experiences, let's say meeting new people from different backgrounds, different countries, different cultures, it was very eye-opening. because that way I could learn so much about so many cultures in one place. And that was
And what about food?
being a vegetarian, that was really difficult. But my first family, and this I'll say about every European, they are very accommodative. They will not make you feel pressurized. They'll not force you to try something which you're not comfortable with. So for the first 6 months, the family I was living with, they did not have non-veg just because of me. So
that's
that
so
was
sweet.
they were so accommodating with me, and they did not feel any pressure, or they did not feel like why are we supposed to change our entire lifestyle for this one person. But they were very much happy to do that. And they
Lovely.
and they did that because the younger host sibling that I had, so not younger, the older one, she had come to exchange in India, and she was living with a Gujarati family in
Okay.
Mumbai. So when she came to India, she became a vegetarian, and she continued that when she went back to France. So they knew how she was treated, how good Indians are for foreigners living in their homes, and they wanted to give me the same experience. So it was like I had a very good family. I did not feel like I'm not with my parents there. I felt that they were my parents. They will take care of me. They will treat me just as their own. Never felt that I'm just as a guest in their place.
In real sense, an exchange program.
Yeah, definitely. And a cultural exchange program, everything.
Right.
How's the food there? Is it good?
A little difficult at first because there was no flavor. I used to add Tabasco sauce on every single thing.
I've heard that like there are too many breads there. Like
Yeah. Every single meal, even at school, my breakfast, my dinner, my lunch, everything used to end with a bread. Like the way we use spoon, they clean their plate with the bread. So it took me a while, let's say 3 or 4 months to get used to it, that yeah, this is my meal. I have to end it with a bread. I have to have a bread every single day. And when I came back, I was like, where is the bread? I need my breads. I don't want to have the industrial breads which are like mass manufactured. I don't want that. I want the good bakery breads. I want sourdoughs every single day.
And back then, I don't know if sourdough was even known here.
it wasn't a thing.
No, the thing here.
So when I came back, I brought, I think, 40 euros worth of cheeses with me, which got bad within 3 days of coming to India. So that was I cried that day when I saw that there was fungus on my cheeses.
Oh, okay,
I cried.
That's bad. Okay, Naman, advertising is an industry that constantly evolves with trends and technology. How do you keep yourself creatively inspired?
That's a good one. We have been facing this for a while after the AI has boomed, because like people don't need designers as much to run ads. We have AI and everything. Like I would like to say that it's only gonna increase the value of a human touch as we progress into this world with AI. It's gonna increase the value of human touch. Like let's take an example. Everyone, like as she was talking, everyone, like there are mass produced breads, but we want that sourdough bread from that specific bakery back in France. Why is that? Because like it's getting more rarer by the day to get those things. So I guess one would be this. Second would be to be a little flexible, because marketing is a very versatile industry in general. You have to match its speed. It's not going to match your speed. You have to keep updating yourself, learning new things. And performance marketing is also a very new thing. It's only 15 years old. But if you see marketing in general, it's a very traditional industry, been there for ages and everything. But performance marketing and all the different influencer marketing, digital ads, and reels and everything is a very new thing. So you have to keep updating yourself. Instagram changes its algorithm every month, so you have to be ahead of it. Where's the industry is going to go and everything.
And what do you think separates a memorable brand campaign from one that people forget quickly?
I would again say that there should be some human touch. Like, why do we remember Nirma washing powder? Nirma, see, like we remember it. And we associate brands with simple emotions. Height बढ़ानी है क्या? Complan. When you mix that human touch, our daily or like instances into those campaigns, when you put your heart into it, it shows. I would say that. Like that's no brainer. Just put your heart into that campaign. Whatever you're doing, it's gonna reach its audience. India has a very huge audience. Everyone gets their own niche.
Now, talking about career, Nidhi, starting with you, you are now working in the banking and finance sector with a global organization. What initially drew you towards this field? Like you mentioned that during your bachelor's, you had inclination towards this.
Except money.
I always wanted to work in a corporate sector, and I saw what all fields were available, what all opportunities were available. And honestly, while I was giving my interviews for my first company, it was all about finance. But later on, when I joined the company, I got to know it's not finance, it's not niche finance, let's say investment banking, hedge funds, nothing like that. It was about KYC. Now what we think, what's the stereotype about KYC is like Aadhaar card dikha do, Aadhaar card video verification and everything. But no, it is the biggest field that I can ever imagine. You have to see so many regulations, you have to you have to see what aspects are there, and I did not know when I was studying that this can be a field. But later on, when I went into it, I realized that this is actually a good field and there are so many other opportunities as well. So I thought let's go ahead, let's do one thing, let's see what all it folds out to be. And later I was like, okay, I'm good. I like this. Yeah, it is interesting.
And what are some skills or habits that helped you transition smoothly from student life to the professional world?
The only discipline that you need is to show up, because
I agree.
Because in your college life you think that you'll miss one lecture, you'll miss the initial few hours, and then you'll go in the second half of the day. You can't do that. So you need to make sure that you show up every single day. You can't treat your company, you can't treat your work as your college. You have to maintain some boundaries, you have to be there, you have to look professional, you have to talk professional, you have to ensure that people around you do not feel demeaned. You treat them as equal as you are, because they are also at the same level as you. So you have to be very respectful. You cannot teenager anymore. You have to be really careful about that.
You really have to grow up.
Yeah, you have to grow up now.
Okay. Naman, when you started your agency, what was the biggest challenge in getting those first few clients?
Nagpur, as in for digital marketing, it's still growing. It's like a baby. It doesn't know a lot of terms. It doesn't know a lot of things. People, like the biggest question was ki how are ads different from boosting? I still get these from even tier 1 city clients. Ki how, like whatever we are doing, how is it different from what you are doing? There's like a stark reality to it that two things are miles apart. So like it needs a specialist, like in doctor terms, that's how I explain my clients, is that there's a general physician, that's your boosting. You can boost your reel. But for a specific need, there you need a neurosurgeon who knows your, the neuro of your body. You need that certain people, certain specialists to do that. So in Nagpur, that was like one of the biggest challenges, is to educate people. You have to educate them first. You have to teach them what this is, metrics kya hote hain. There was one of my clients, he was running ads for 2 years with some person, and like he has an e-commerce brand, proper website without any other social media handles, nothing, only a website he wants to sell. But he's targeting कि भैया आपका followers बढ़ाते हैं, हम आपका social media करेंगे. But like I just in like during the first pitch I was like कि you are tracking the wrong metrics. क्योंकि if you have an e-commerce brand, nothing matters except sales. The people, the money that you get to your house, like it's only that's gonna matter. The followers not gonna matter. You can have 1 million followers and you still don't have any sales, but you can have $1 million and have no followers. You're gonna be happier.
Right. In your opinion, what are the most important qualities someone needs to succeed in the advertising and marketing industry today?
I would say you have to be really flexible. That being said, you have to be very flexible. You have to change as the marketing agency marketing fields change. You have to be very swift. You have to, have some direction of your own, sense of direction. And you should, if you are an introvert, you become an extrovert. This industry is gonna ask you for all those things. Like, you're gonna face people you are never thought of facing. You're gonna have conversations that you have never planned, never even imagined. And like, yeah, that's one of those things. You're gonna meet people, you have to hire and fire. You're gonna hire people, you're gonna fire people, and firing people is not easy.
Not easy, right?
So yeah, so you have to get it.
Okay. Ishita, you are now working with a large company and doing well professionally. What key decisions helped you reach this stage?
I think goes without saying, being proactive. You can't just sit around at home, send 5 applications, 10 applications a day, and then just say, okay, I'm done. I hope just the jobs come in. No. You have to and I think now, whatever I can do, I think anybody can do that. Anybody can be trained for a month and do probably a better job than I do. So I have to have a personal connection with somebody, a one-on-one connection with somebody, where I can form that sort of trust or loyalty, or just a good relationship where they feel that I have something unique which maybe 10 other people in line with me who have better qualities might not. So I think being proactive is number one. You have to actively promote yourself, you have to speak for yourself, you have to sell yourself. Make sure that people know what you can give them and they know your value. Number 2 would be, of course, confidence. It is intimidating to meet people around who might be doing better than you, or who have more exposure than you, or maybe are in the same field but have had more experience than you, so they know more. But I think keeping that feeling aside and just being confidently around a person, I think you have to change your mindset. It's rather than thinking it's a competition, oh, he's better than me or she is better than me, just think of it that maybe a 10-minute conversation can help you learn from what they do. Maybe you pick up one thing that you currently don't have. So I think that would be number 2. And I think number 3 would be just plain working hard. You have to keep working hard. And I know we make a lot of jokes about how Gen Zs work. But I think they have good boundaries. Working hard doesn't mean that I should sit in my office till 8 or 9 in the night, have no life outside my office. But working hard means that the first 1 month, 2 months of my job, I am the best dressed, the person who's putting in the most efforts, who's always available to help out, who's proactively doing their work, who's always early on deadlines. And for those 2 months, I stay consistent so that people know they can trust. And then I can ease out, I can relax a little bit. I still match my deadlines, I still help people out, but they trust me more than they would trust anybody else, because I put in 2 months just showing them that I can do it. So you have to prove yourself and you have to work hard. There's no way around it. Have your boundaries. Don't just sit in the office, but at the same time work very, very, very hard and make sure everybody sees it.
Yeah, that's also very important. And what are some realities of corporate life that young graduates should be prepared for?
I think whatever you learn in college, real life has nothing to do with it. The only thing that the university or schools or colleges are actually teaching you is showing up, being punctual, and even when you're sick, you go to the school or university. Similarly, you go to your office. And also sometimes making excuses, like when you don't feel like going to the school, you've had a fight, or you've just been lazy, and then you have to make excuses and say, oh, I don't feel too well, maybe I just need a work from home day, I'll just come tomorrow, I don't want to get others sick too. So I think that is all you learn. Everything else, how things work, what you do, everything else is something you learn as you go. But I would like to take the opportunity to tell everyone that it's 1,000 times easier than you think, because a lot of kids don't want to take that leap of faith and don't want to start working because they're scared that they don't know anything. It's so easy. It's so easy. Before you know, you'll be doing already like 7 years on your resume. Just start. It's super easy.
Okay. Switching to relationships. Nidhi, with you, with career ambitions and a fast paced lifestyle, how do you nurture meaningful relationships in your life?
Work-life balance. That is very much important. As much as I am going to focus on my work, I need to focus on myself. And I love hosting parties at my place. So I take that part very seriously. Every 1 week, 2 weeks, I try to meet my friends around, I try to meet my partners around, and I see that I make time for them, because that is going to give me some space, some freshness in my mind, something else to think for, something to look forward to. So this is something that I do to keep myself sane.
Okay. Who are the people you turn to when you need support or perspective?
Sister and my father. Any kind of advice I want, these are the two people who get the first calls. Probably we do a group call and I'm like, okay, this is the problem, now tell me what do I need to do. And I'll get different types of opinions from both of them. From a person who knows me in my truest self, my sister, she'll give me the reality check, and my father, who is just there to support me emotionally, and he's going to only say, सब ठीक हो जाएगा, just deal with it for now, you're very strong, you'll deal with it, हो जाएगा. So
That's a very nice balance also. Actually, somebody telling you the harshest truth, and the other one supporting you. नहीं तू कर लेगी करके.
So I get the reality check as well as the affirmations which we need every single day.
Yeah, that's nice. Ishita, with an ambitious career and international experience, how have your relationships and friendships evolved over time?
I think everything combined, what I know about friendships and relationships today is that you have to understand a person a lot. Not just understand what they're trying to explain you, not just understanding the conversations that go around or the kind of person they are, but also when they call you at 7 p.m. when your plan is for 8 p.m. and you're almost starting to get ready, and they say, oh, I don't think we can meet up today. You understand, because a lot of times I think this is the plus point of having friends, that you don't have to fake it with them, you don't have to filter anything with them. And I think as we grow older, you have to understand that there are a lot of things on a person's mind. There are times when I have to start getting ready and I feel like, oh, I don't think I can go out today. I just want to sit at home. I want to do nothing. And it's not like I'm busy. I'm still free, but I just don't feel like going out. I think it's so important to understand what someone is trying to tell you. And number 2 would be support. I think all of us are going through things. You're not alone. So you can't just sit and cry just for yourself. You have to understand that there are times when people around you are going through a lot, and you just have to be there for them. Everyone is struggling. Everyone is having their good days, bad days. They want to celebrate. They want to cry. It's all a mix. And some days are your days, some days are their days, and you just have to mix, match, and work around it.
Aman, in a field like marketing, networks and collaborations matter a lot. How have relationships helped you grow professionally?
Like, one of my few clients that I got onboarded when I started an agency were from my relations, because of my relations, because I like to talk to people. I want to know their story. Like, I've been a good part of their life when they are down, when they are happy. I've always tried to support them. So yeah, majorly all the relations matter a lot, and yeah, pretty much.
So do you think in Nagpur especially, or even in bigger cities, it is through relationships that you get work?
Majorly the good work you're gonna get, like, it's gonna be from the word of mouth. Because if I trust someone, if I trust my friend and he says that, like, he knows an agency who has delivered good work to him, like, he's gonna tell me and I'm gonna contact that agency. So me hiring that agency is like 50% more likely. And if that agency were to cold call me, cold email me, like, I'm very hesitant to work with them. So that's what in my opinion, what I've observed Other than that, I would say ki you should definitely have some relations in the industry. You should talk to people because they're gonna get you the clients. They're gonna get you the help if they can't get you the clients. They're gonna give you a perspective. So that's good to have. Sometimes all you need is perspective. Someone to you need critics so that they can point out the errors that in your ads, your targeting and everything, and they can get you back onto the track.
How do you maintain trust and long-term relationships with clients in such a competitive industry?
This is one thing that I've learned from my job is to promise less, deliver more. Every time you should always promise what you can do and deliver more than that. Deliver, like, go an extra mile, and that client's not going to leave you, because in today's world no one's going that extra mile, and going that extra mile for any client is going to get you the rapport with them. And always have conversation, have feedback loop, hear to negative feedback. That is like the must. If you hear them out, like, that's all a client needs. They don't want to change agencies. Changing agencies, like, you have been working for such a long time, it's not easy. So it's better to, like, if someone listens to me, like, for example, let's take a human example. There's one of my friend and I'm really angry at him. Like, he's not been coming to meet me for a longest time. He's been cancelling plans and everything. And for me to change that friend is going to be a lot harder. Like, if he listens to my rant, you have been lazy, you have been not coming, you have been not delivering and everything, that's gonna sort it out. I'm gonna feel at ease after a week, and then I'm gonna go talk to him after a week. So it's easier.
When things don't go as planned, what helps you to stay grounded and move forward? Nidhi, this is about the mental health now.
Okay.
We've shifted the area of conversation.
Just taking a step back, think about it, talk to someone, and just get a different opinion. I'm going through this. I think I need help. I think I need some advice. So that is something that I do. Understand that if what direction I need to go now. So that is something that I do.
Okay. Young professionals today face a lot of pressure to perform and succeed. How do you manage stress and maintain balance?
Stress is always going to be there. That is not going to go away. But you need to be vocal about it. So what my managers have taught me over the years is, whatever you do for you. If you ever feel stressed, come to us. We'll try and figure out a way to reduce your stress. Maybe we'll divide your work, we'll delegate your work to someone else, or maybe we'll plan your work in a way that helps you out, so that you can do the same amount of work but in a better way, in an efficient way. If you want additional trainings, you do that. If you want additional support from me, if you want to learn new things, you come to me. So this is how you're going to deal with the stress, because at the end of the day, it is your job. You have to show up. You have to give the deliverables, and that is not going to go away any time soon. So just understand that there are people you can talk to. It is if you're in a good company, it is you're always going to have good managers, and if you have a good manager, it is your workplace is going to be a heaven for you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But then this is only about professional life.
Yeah.
What if there is stress at home? How do you tackle that? And suppose, like, you have a sister, you said, and she's most critical about you.
Yeah.
Suppose if you have a fight with her, how do you deal with that?
Our fights are very weird. We fight for an hour. We fight for 2 hours. After 2 hours later, we're like, can you send me this? Can you send me that? How is this? How is that? So we just go back to normal.
So you just forget.
Yeah, we just forget about it. And just talking about it helps a lot. Even though I know that I am again going to get a reality check from her, but at least I know that she listened to me and I can speak my mind with her. So that helps a lot. Just, I have realized talking about your stress with someone you trust, someone who has always shown up for you, that helps a lot.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ishita, in your journey so far, were there moments of soft doubt or pressure, and how did you deal with them?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I think the self-doubt, the pressure doesn't go away. There are good months, there are bad months. I think every time you do something, there will be a tiny voice in your head which is cross-checking if it's the right thing to do. And you have so much on the line. Like I said before, there are 10 people who can do the same work as you. So there is always this doubt that, oh my god, if I do something wrong, will I just get kicked out? Or will I lose my job? Or will something like that happen? And I've seen so many people work in that paranoia, and then their work is far worse than what it would be if they just work normally. But I think I agree with what you said. Replacing someone is far more difficult than actually teaching them how to do it better. I think half of your self doubt will go away if you just understand that. And the other half is just blindly trusting yourself at times. If you mess up, you mess up. If it goes good, very good for you. So there are times of self doubt, and there are times where you don't feel 100%, but I think the just trusting yourself. If you think it's wrong, trust yourself, don't do it. If you think it's right, trust yourself, do it. If you're still not clear, maybe take advice from people that are around you who you know you can trust. And I think that's it.
I'll just add to that, like how I function is ki, like there's one thing that I read and it has helped me immensely, is like everyone's figuring out. Even adults don't know how to be adults. Everyone's trying to be an adult. They don't know. No one knows what being an adult is. Like everyone's figuring out. सब तुक्का लगा रहे हैं, पता किसी को नहीं है.
There's no proper definition of being an adult.
No, but then there are areas, like not everything is being figured out by everybody.
But yeah, it helps ki haan.
You know, they know how to do it, and you can see it in the way they do it.
Because they've been doing it for a long time.
And or maybe they have a good memory about it. But even if it is not for a long time, even if it was once or twice, or like you don't have children every day, you have children only twice in your lifetime, or maybe once also. But you know how to bring them up most of the time. But yes, parents also do goof up a lot with children. They also do goof up while bringing up their children, which is very natural. Continuing that question, what do you do to maintain your mental and emotional well-being in a demanding professional life?
I think one, if you're lucky enough to find a colleague that you can just sit and rant with, that's the best, because there's nobody on earth who's going through the same thing. Your parents will be sympathetic with you, your partner, your friends, everyone will be sympathetic, but they're not in that position. So when you hate somebody at work, hate them with your entire heart, with your guts, nobody else will understand. They'll just think you're being petty and you're just being a small person. But that one co-worker who's going through the same thing will know why you hate that person and will not judge you for it. So I think that helps, number one. But number two, on a more serious note, would be to take time out for yourself. No matter what you like doing, whether it's productive, like whether you like playing sports, you're creative, you're artistic, you like to paint, sing, whatever, do that. Even if it's unproductive, if you just like to sit in front of the TV and watch it all day without moving, without showering on Sundays, without eating, without doing anything, do that. I think there should be one day a week which is just yours. It's nobody else's. You're not working, you're not doing anything but doing what you like. So just take one day a week to make sure you have that space for yourself.
Okay. Naman, in entrepreneurship often comes with highs and lows. How do you stay motivated during phases when things move slowly?
So what's been working for me is to, like what she said, is just to show up. Like they're gonna be bad days, they're gonna be good days. They're gonna be months and months that are gonna be bad. They're gonna be slow. The economy is not moving. You're not getting a new clients. You are not getting the kind of work you're getting. You want. You might be getting a lot of work, but you don't like the work. You're like, yeah, I can be doing so much more. So what is ki just show up, be there, go through it. And there's also like a 7-year cycle in industry. Ki everything goes through highs and lows. So you just have to survive those. Just have to show up, be punctual, be disciplined when the things are not going as per your plan.
Okay. And in such a fast-paced industry, how do you make sure you don't lose balance between work and personal life? And that too, you're taking care of two businesses. A more important
So
question.
as I said in my introduction, like I'm barely not working. I'm always like either mentally I'm in some of my, like I'm thinking about something, either my business, like my agency or my family business. Either I'm receiving calls, replying to emails, replying to WhatsApp messages, giving quotations, कि अच्छा भैया ये नहीं आया कब आएगा, whatever those things are. So I do lose my touch sometimes. Like there are some weeks that I go without having a good conversation with my mother. And like my mother is my best friend. Like I tell her everything that goes on in my life. And there have been days or weeks that I've not talked to her, like sit down for a cup of tea with her and talked about anything real. It's gonna happen. You just have to accept it that like at this age, at 25, 26, this is the period that you hustle, because like either you can hustle right now or hustle for life. So I would any day choose hustling for 4-5 years, getting to a good position, and then taking care of my parents and my family.
So Ishita, now this is our closing section, but we are not closing soon yet. So Ishita, what advice would you give to young students from cities like Nagpur who dream of studying and working globally?
I think number one, you have to focus outside your curriculum. Not just sports, not just different topics, but one thing that everybody had that I did not when I moved out was, while all of us scroll, because that is what we hear, right? Everyone is scrolling. But what I realized, they were scrolling on very useful content while I was scrolling through nuisance. So while I was on Instagram just hearting everything, they were all on YouTube watching documentaries and listening to like major podcasts. Like about everything, about from planes, how they are made, to fruits, how they grow, to was dinosaur closer to when the earth was made or to us, everything. So I think everyone is scrolling, but remember, some people are scrolling better things than you are. So number one, focus on things beyond what you're taught. Try to learn everything. I think to this, I would also say being, what is that saying?
A jack of all
Jack
trades.
of all, master of none is also a very good quality to have. It's good to be jack of all, even if you're master of none, because I don't think we are in a world where people are looking for anybody with one single good quality. They are looking for people with 10 averagely good qualities. So I think that would be my advice. Focus on things beyond what you're taught.
The saying is jack of all trades, master of none is still better than being a master of one.
Huh.
So just finish the saying. Don't just say two lines. Say the original saying is what my piece of advice would be now.
And what does the term gold diggers mean to you personally?
Gold diggers. I think everyone is a gold digger now. We all have goals. Some that are more motivated by society, like having a great job, living outside, doing something with your life. Some more simpler than that, living with your family, spending time with them, enjoying your life, working but not making work 100% of who you are. I think goal diggers for me is anybody who's working hard for any goal that they have. It could be a goal that is celebrated by society, or it could be a goal that is just celebrated by you individually. If you are working towards a goal, you are a goal digger.
Very good. Naman, if someone in their early 20s want to start an agency or business someday, where should they begin?
Take some lines from her that you should learn everything. This is what has helped me, is just to know a lot of things. You never know what life's gonna give you, so just know a lot of things, scroll good stuff. And when you're aware of all the things that have been around you, even though the things that are not around you, you get a sense of a sense of direction, what you can do, how you can change your life trajectories. And this is what I would tell a 20-year-old that gain as much knowledge as you can, because you never know what life will give you. Life can give you lemons, life can give you salt. You have to figure everything else. So yeah.
Correct. And looking ahead, what kind of impact or legacy would you like your work to create?
I'm very vocal about this in my business also, that we should be like this. This is one thing that I've learned from my father, is ki you should, like, everyone's selling things. You should create some impact while doing that. You should add something to their person's life, to their day. So there's like one thing that we do is like we have a retail counter. So on a retail counter, we keep small chocolates on it. Like, we are far away from a chocolate counter or a general store or anything. We are selling very serious machinery parts. But when I asked my father, when I joined this industry, he was like, why do we keep that every day? For the last 40 years, we have been keeping chocolates and bananas. He's like, the person who's coming here is coming for the parts that everyone can give, but he's also very hungry. That's an insight. Like, he's been working in the scorching sun every day. So you have to make his day better. He doesn't have the time to, maybe he has time, or maybe he doesn't have the time to have a proper meal. But while he's waiting for us to procure those goods, he can have these chocolates, these bananas, and he can feel a little fulfilled. So that's what I've learned from him. Second is to give back to society, that I would try to give back as much as I can. Since you never know कि आप किसका खा रहे हो, so you have to give back to society as much as possible, because they are the people who are helping us grow. So you have to give them in some sense or the other.
Nidhi, what advice would you give to students who dream of studying abroad and building a global career? Like, since you have been an exchange student, is there something that children should start from that age, or is there something like how Ishita pursued her master's, that was a final degree, and then she pursued working there and living there? What is a better option?
I'll say everyone needs to try everything. Yeah, I think that's the one thing that every person should do, be it our age, be it a 30-year-old or 40-year-old. Never stop learning. Maybe you'll find something that drives you, and then work towards that. So that is something I will say.
Okay. And if you had to describe your journey so far in one sentence, what would it be?
Go with the flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since we've come to the end of our podcast, a few questions that I want you to answer very in short, though they are very meaningful questions, but I'll have 3 questions with her, some with her and some with her, like that. So starting with you, Ishita, from the outside, your life looks very successful. So international education, a great job, financial independence. But what is one struggle people don't see behind this success?
I would say being away from my family. I think literally no amount of money I can make, or there's no amazing job that I can have which will ever make me feel like it's a fair trade. It will always be a biased trade. It will always be a trade that I don't think is worth it, but you go with it. So I would say that is something that people don't see. Even today, like when I'm somewhere, I'm going out on the weekends and I'll see kids just enjoying with their families. I'm so jealous of them. Like, I will just look at them with that face, like, so irritated. But yeah, it just feels really bad at times. So that would be something.
And do you think ambitious young women sometimes intimidate people in relationship, whether friendships or dating? Have you ever experienced that?
A lot of women who are doing well with their work, who are skilled, who have good exposure, who are vocal about what they know and what they want, I think there will always be people that are intimidated by them, and there will always be people who would dislike. It's better to walk past it. Whatever you feel, you have to voice it out, whether people like it or not. And it's I don't mean to target anybody. It's not just men who will be intimidated by a strong woman. It will also be her own friends. It might also be her own family. And it might also, very much the case, would be her managers, her colleagues, her team members. If you are one of them, I think just remember it's not a race. More success to me doesn't mean any less to anybody else. It's all the same. I think it would happen a lot more for the generations before us. I hope it's not the same for our generation and the generations after that. I hope we all help each other out. I hope we give each other opportunities to lift each other up rather than see a shining star and try to suppress it.
Okay. And do you ever feel an extra pressure to succeed?
Yes, I mean, of course, I think there's nobody who doesn't feel it. Anybody who's working, I feel now we are in a very hyperactive environment. Everyone is seeing stories of being a billionaire at 22, owning a Ferrari by 25, and you are already very late for Forbes 30 under 30. You are not making it definitely if you're 28 and you've not made it, you're definitely not making it. So there's of course this pressure just to do well also, but some days, like Nidhi said, go with the flow. You are not competing with anybody. It's all a hoax. You could be in Forbes and still be a really sad person, and you could just be a mediocre employee all your life and just have a great life. So I think focus on things that are important to you. If Forbes is important to you, work 24/7, never give up, just keep doing it until you're there. If it's not, just don't fall for the Instagram bullshit of I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to achieve this also before I'm 30. No need.
Naman, over to you. Social media glorifies entrepreneurship. What is one harsh truth about running a business that nobody tells young people?
That it's not very, glamorous. It's very harsh. The truth, like to run a business is to have those conversations, as I mentioned earlier. You're going to have really hard conversations. It is not at all glamorous. It is far away from being a glamorous industry. Although we are making the prettiest ads, the most converting ads, but like the people who are creating it can be very sad. And you have to accept that you have to work with everyone in this industry.
And if success demanded that you sacrifice comfort, friendship, or stability for a few years, would you still choose the same path again?
Yes, 100% yes. Okay. I would do it all over again.
All right. If someone younger to you told you, I want to quit my job and start a startup, what is the one uncomfortable truth you would tell them before they do it?
When you're quitting your 9 to 5, you're basically working 2x that, and you're not quitting your 9 to 5. 9 to 5 is like, for startup owners, it's like luxury. 9 to 5 is like stability, and a startup is like not at all stable in any sense, and you have to be working 24/7 pretty much. You're sleeping with the same thought and you're waking up to the same thought. You're always hustling.
Okay. Now, Nidhi, your turn. Life often teaches us resilience in unexpected ways. What is something you learned about yourself through difficult or uncertain moments?
I can do anything. I might crib about it, I might cry about it, but I know that I'll get it done.
That's amazing. When you look at the journey that brought you here today, what are the moments or people you feel most grateful for?
My family, the closest friends that I have grown up with, they have seen me through everything. They've seen me cry, they've seen me celebrate, they have seen me depressed, they've seen me heartbroken, they've seen everything, and still they chose to stay with me, and they chose to support me through everything, and that is something that I want. That is something that drives me every day.
And if you could sit down with your younger self for a conversation, what is one thing you would tell her about life and the future?
You will figure it out. It is not sab ho jayega. It is not the end of the world. You might think at that point ki you don't know what to do, you don't know how things are going to turn out to be. It will turn out good for you. Just work towards it. Just give it time. Everything requires time. So trust yourself, have faith in yourself, know that you are surrounded by people who will be in front of you by a call, within a message. They'll be like standing right in front of you and be like, we'll figure it out together. You are not alone. And that is something that you always need to know, that you're never alone.
Yeah. And sometimes even if they are with you, it's just a moral support.
Yes.
And you have to do it yourself anyways. But then still being there is a big support.
Yes.
Right. Okay, now we start with the rapid fire round. So starting with you, Ishita, this is our very quick rapid fire round. First question, success or happiness?
Happiness.
Independence or security?
Security.
A fear you've overcome.
Not believing in myself as much as I should, being less confident.
One belief about life that changed after moving abroad.
There are things that are more important than the time that you spend with your family.
Something you are still trying to figure out.
Just work-life balance, being less stressed about things that happen at your work.
Over to you, Nidhi. Comfort zone or growth?
Growth.
One thing life taught you early.
You need to take your stand.
Trust or self-resilience?
Self-resilience.
Okay. A moment that changed your perspective.
My exchange year.
Something you're grateful for today.
Everything that I have been taught.
Over to you, Naman. Risk or stability?
Risk.
Ambition or balance?
Ambition.
Failure or regret?
Failure.
One truth about entrepreneurship.
That it's not glamorous.
What keeps you going?
My family.
On that note, we come to the end of our 6th episode. And thank you so much. You've contributed so much to this episode. And I really appreciate how open and vulnerable you all have been with your experience and your life today. Is there any question that you would like to ask me since I'm running the Life Lab?
How's your journey been?
Oh, it's been great. It's been a roller coaster. There's been a lot of ups and downs, but it has been very, very great. And I cannot be thankful enough for it. To everybody responsible, whether it be my parents, my teachers, my school, my upbringing, my children for that matter, everyone in my life, my friends, people who ditched me, who talked behind me, who stabbed me on my back, all of them, thank you very much, because that's what has made me what I am today. And also being principal, we usually assume that it's a very, मतलब एक कोई आंटी है साड़ी वाली जो बैठी हुई है ऑफिस में और पढ़ा रही है बच्चों को, 200 बच्चों को डांट रही है, टीचर्स को भी डांट रही है. But believe me, it's such a dynamic post. And not just me, I would like to give a shout out to all my colleagues. They are such dynamic ladies. You tell them and they can do it. It's not just a general post. It's a very dynamic and a very powerful post. And it teaches you so many things.
What would you tell your 20-year-old who wants to start a podcast? Just have fun.
Enjoy what you're doing. Talk about things that really matter to you. And, of course, life is serious, but life is a lot of fun also. And when it's over, you always laugh on it. So even if you fall, you trip, you hurt yourself, you meet with an accident, बाद में सब हो जाने के बाद, इलाज हो जाने के बाद हॉस्पिटल बेड पे भी आप अपने फ्रेंड्स के साथ, बच्चों के साथ या फैमिली के साथ बैठ के हंसते ही हो कि यार मैं क्या स्लिप हुई और कैसे गिरी और कितनी बुरी तरह लगा मुझे, मरते मरते बची या ऐसे, देयर इज ऑलवेज दिस कन्वर्सेशन. सो just take it easy and have fun.
And what is the advice you'll give the younger generation? Like you asked all of us for advice.
Yes.
And I think we are far behind the position where we should be giving advices right now. We are still looking for them. So what would be your advice to younger generation?
So I would say that there are a lot of distraction today. There is social media, there's everything your peers are doing is pressure on you, and you are forced to do things which you really don't believe in and you don't want to do it, but you do it only for the sake of being part of them. Just be yourself, be an individual, no matter how dumb, no matter how intelligent, no matter how messy, whatever you are, just be yourself. I think that's the best thing that children need in today's date, because deep down जो upbringing उनको मिल रही है, जैसे उनकी families हैं, वो values वो carry करते हैं till a very long time in life, like until they become a professional and even after that for that matter. और ये आपके पास में rewind हो के वो situations आएंगी when your upbringing is tested, when you are tested on right and wrong to choose between them, and just बी योर सेल्फ. क्योंकि जो आपने सीखा है इतने सालों से, जैसे घर से आप आते हो, जैसे आपके पेरेंट्स रहे हैं, यू कैन नॉट बी फार अवे फ्रॉम देम. यू मे बी अ मॉडिफाइड वर्जन ऑफ योर ओन पेरेंट्स, बट यू कैन नॉट बी अ डिफरेंट एंटिटी ऑल टुगेदर कि ये ऐसा है पर इसके घर वाले बहुत ही अलग हैं. ऐसा नहीं होता है. जो कोर है वो सेम ही रहता है. और मैं बच्चों को यही बोलूँगी कि यू स्टिक टू दैट, बिकॉज that's always very good.
What is your life mantra?
Not just one thing, but then an amalgamation of a lot of things. One is that set your priorities, know what comes first. in my life it came very late when my dad had his heart attack. It's then that I decided that what is my life priority. So it was my family first, my parents, then my job came. But there are people who place it more important, and whichever is your priority level, you should decide it earlier in life. That is one. Second is that you need not run behind people and things and ये भी अचीव करना है, ये दोस्त चिड़िया इसको भी मना के साथ में रखना है, या कोई पार्टनर चिड़िया है उसको भी तकलीफ सह के अपने आप को प्रेशर करके कि नहीं लोग क्या बोलेंगे, ये ऐसा रिलेशनशिप था और टूट गया है और ऐसे नाउ यू आर नॉट टुगेदर एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. तो हम वो सब प्रेशर में बहुत जीते हैं. सही भी है, जिसको जैसा सही लगे वैसा करना चाहिए, बट अपने आप को ख़त्म करके छोड़ के अपने बच्चों को छोड़ के और अपने फैमिली को छोड़ के वो चीज़ को हासिल करना इज़ नॉट समथिंग यू शुड रन बिहाइंड. You should always chase what your mind wants, what your heart wants, but at the same time don't forget yourself in that race. So there's always goals that you chase, and then those goals should not like Ishita also said, that they should not define you. You should still be who you are. So that's it.
One last question. What is one thing that you would want to see in the younger generation? One thing for every single person.
In your children.
In your children or people our age, your
So
everyone.
in my children, I would specify that to a mother, her children are never at fault. So whatever they do, they are good. And sometimes they do make mistakes, and you get angry at them and you tell them honestly. But I think that should be the most honest conversation. Besides that, other children also, I feel all this generation is very close to my heart because I'm working with them and I see them, every day. They want to do a lot of things. They want to achieve. इसका बेटा बाहर गया पढ़ने, इसका बेटा डॉक्टर बन रहा है, उसकी बेटी इंजीनियर बन गई है. तो ये सब बहुत प्रेशर है उन पे ऑलरेडी. मगर आप खुद क्या चाहते हो वो देखो. Unfortunately, society decides success on the parameters of money that you earn, which cannot be denied also because that is a very huge factor in life. But इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि अगर आप उससे against भी सोच रहे हो तो आप unsuccessful हो. तो आप वो करो जो आपके लिए सही है. But at the same time, जैसे एक बहुत फेमस हम saying से we go by the saying that do what your heart pleases, make your hobby your profession. I don't think this goes too well. आपका प्रोफेशन अपनी जगह होता है कई बार, ठीक है, सिंगर्स हैं, आर्टिस्ट हैं, उनकी बात अलग होती है. बट जो लोग एक सीरियस प्रोफेशन में जाते हैं, टेक्निकल प्रोफेशन में जाते हैं, तो योर प्रोफेशन कैन बी एट वन प्लेस and you can be successful or unsuccessful in that, and you can have a hobby. You can continue to play the sport that you were playing as a child. You can continue to do the little artistic work or even bigger scale artistic work. I have seen such people कि वो भले ही एक बड़े से हॉस्पिटल के HR हैं, बट पेंटिंग उनकी हॉबी है या कुकिंग उनकी हॉबी है, तो वो कंटिन्यू करते हैं वो हॉबी को परस्यू करना. तो ऐसा ज़रूरी नहीं है. बस ये है कि आप सक्सेस को किस पैरामीटर पे तौलते हो और वो अचीव करने के लिए आप कौन सा ज़रिया चुनते हो, तो वही परस्यू करना चाहिए.
So let's end it with a rapid fire. Since you have been working with our generation, like people like us, what's that one quality, short answer, that you have learned from us?
To be really honest. Just say what you feel like and don't hesitate on it. मतलब अच्छा लग रहा है तो भी बोल दो, बुरा लग रहा है तो भी बोल दो, और वो बोल देते हैं. और वो बहुत अच्छी बात है.
Very true.
एक बच्ची है, उसने कोई टेस्ट अपियर किया, तो मैंने पूछा कि कैसा हुआ टेस्ट. मैं बहुत अच्छा हुआ, मैं तो फिर से देने वाली हूँ. So you get your answer also, and I will look at her positive side. I really enjoyed speaking to her.
As we come to the end of this episode, one thing becomes very clear. There is no single formula for success. Every journey is different. Every decision carries its own risks, and every experience leaves us with lessons we didn't expect. What we heard today were not just stories of achievements, but stories of courage. The courage to step out of comfort zones, to explore opportunities beyond familiar spaces, and to keep moving forward even when the path isn't completely clear. That, in many ways, is what the Life Lab is about. Life constantly presents us with experiments. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. but every experience teaches us something valuable about ourselves. To our guests, thank you for sharing your journey so honestly. And to everyone watching, if there is one takeaway from today's conversation, it is this: dream boldly, stay curious, and never stop experimenting with your own potential. Thank you for being part of the Life Lab by Shabi. Until the next episode, keep learning from life.